Let's bring in Dan Perry, the former Jerusalem bureau chief for the Associated Press and managing partner for Thunder 11. The ceasefire should last 4 days. Why is this ceasefire advantageous for Hamas?
Well, Hamas needed a ceasefire of many length of time to regroup and restock and rearm. Remember, they're hiding out in tunnels and they need to smuggle stuff back into those tunnels. If you believe they care about the people of Gaza, which you might not, they need humanitarian aid to get in greater numbers than before. You know, under in the context of peace and quiet, and many trucks of aid getting in from Israel and Egypt, I believe. But beyond that, critically, they got Israel to agree to a dynamic where they only receive a few hostages each time in phases, piecemeal, basically where Hamas buys these days of quiet with small amounts of hostages. Now, if this works and Hamas ends up getting maybe a month or so of quiet, maybe still keeps a handful of hostages, even after that they can better justify, like not babies, but reserve military soldiers, well, then they're hoping that the momentum for continuing the war will be lost and that the world will basically be so shocked at the devastation that is revealed in Gaza that it'll force Israel to not resume the war at all, despite its protestations. And that would leave Hamas in power, at least in the south of Gaza. For them, that's a victory.
And Dan, more than anything, because you've seen how this operates on the ground, there's no guarantee that Hamas will not try and commandeer some of that aid coming into Gaza, correct?
Absolutely. History shows that they do. And there's not that much of an infrastructure left on the ground of foreign observers to prevent it. It's a danger, and that's why Israel's been hesitant. On the other hand, you have a sanitary disaster in southern Gaza. You have a real humanitarian problem. They got to roll the dice.
Dan, the Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant says there will be at least 2 more months of fighting. Is there a political strategy behind the continuing war effort on Israel's side? Yeah.
Look, they're pretty serious about wanting to eradicate Hamas and remove it from power. Remember, for the current government, they really feel a need to undo the humiliation and disgrace of their cataclysmic failure on October 7th. Moreover, Netanyahu's in a bind personally. Polls show that 80% of the people want him to resign. He's arguing that you can't change leaders in the middle of a war. Now, anyone who doesn't understand that it is therefore in his interest to prolong the war, or whoever considers that some kind of cynical thing to contemplate, doesn't know Netanyahu.
Dan, what does your reporting tell you about these negotiation tactics? I've read everything from notes being passed from tunnels back through Egypt to other handlers. So they go back and forth with these names, making the process extremely difficult.
It's difficult for a lot of reasons. Precisely what you said, the logistics of it, and also Hamas claims, and they may be right, that they don't control all the hostages. There's other, and if you can believe that, even more radical groups in Gaza. There's mafia families that may be holding some of the hostages. Remember, individuals from Gaza during the chaos of October 7th went in and took their own hostages. So the fact that the Red Cross may be allowed to actually go in and do a registry of all the hostages is invaluable for Israel to get a true picture of what's going on.
And the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says they want to do 3 things in Gaza: destroy Hamas, free the hostages, and give Gaza a different future. What steps is Israel taking to do that? And that different future, does that mean occupation?
Well, look, I got to tell you, when you talk about Israel, what are they doing? There is no they. There's more than one Israel. The country's very divided on almost everything, including, and maybe especially, what to do with the Palestinian areas. And right now, Gaza is the most acute issue. So there's talk, and Netanyahu may say what he wants, but he may not be in power for long. There's no agreement. The security establishment and most of the Israeli opposition and the moderate Israeli political forces would reinstall the Palestinian Authority in Gaza. Hopefully a spruced up version of it, a more legitimate one, maybe new elections, maybe revamped and rejuvenated, but the Palestinian Authority. Netanyahu is basically hinting at a long occupation, which again, you have to remember, is in his political interest in a twisted way.
Dan, I have to go, but I have one last question for you. Here on the left, we're seeing in the United States resistance towards Israel grow. Are you seeing that in other parts of the country as well? Other parts of the world?
Yeah, I mean, look, Israel has a problem with the far left and with the youth. And you see that for sure in Gen Z, but not only, and among, obviously, Islamic minorities, and not only. In Europe also, no less than in the US. You see mass protests in London, basically against Israel, where the same dynamic is evident. You have people who don't know much about what's happening on the ground, including LGBTQ community who would be, killed in Gaza, thinking that supporting Hamas is equivalent to supporting the Palestinians. And that is just sadly misguided, but it's a factor.
Dan Perry, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
My pleasure.